What is up, ladies and gentlemen? It is your boy Xehther here, and I'm back at it again to drop What If Deku Was Deadpool. Now, guys, a lot of you guys are probably like, let's go! He's finally doing it! And then a couple of you guys are like, yo, Deku Deadpool? What? When? How? What? Well, for those of you who are like, yo, like, why are you dropping this? Well, if you guys have been keeping up with my community tab, a couple days ago I asked you guys what you guys would rather watch. Deadpool Deku, Omni-Man Deku, or what if Naruto was an Uchiha? And a lot of you guys ended up going with Deadpool Deku, and so here it is. That being said, though, I probably will do the other two what ifs. For sure, I'm probably going to be doing the Omni-Man one just because there's a certain story that I want to make with that. But yeah, that being said, though, guys, you guys know the drill of these videos. This video is going to be a sponsored one, so there will be some details on that midway through the video, as well as guys, in case you guys want to keep up to date with what videos I'm going to be uploading, you know, like what polls and stuff like that I'm going to be doing, you guys have to be watching my community tab and, you know, checking it out every now and then, just to, you know, put your own vote in there. Vote for what ifs you guys want next. Maybe check out some sneak peeks for what ifs and stuff like that in case you guys are interested. And with that being said, go down below and check my description. Seeing as down below there will be links to my Discord server, as well as a link to my boy Dankgod, the thumbnail maker of today's video. That being said, though, guys, let's get right into the what if. Alright, so we're going to be starting our story off in a different plane of existence. We're not going to be starting off in the My Hero Academia universe. Rather, we're going to be starting off in the point of view of Deadpool. Now, Deadpool's kind of just going to be in his room reading. You know, he finally just got a job done. He passes by a comic store and picked up one of his favorite mangas, My Hero Academia. That man pulls up to his house and he's like, oh my god. He's reading the current manga. He's like, spoiler alerts, by the way. He's like, Star and Stripes? She just lost? You know, Deadpool's sitting there like, oh my god, how's Deku gonna win now? And then, you know, we basically just have him just freaking out about the manga and looking at the art, being like, this is so awesome, as he would come out to the screen and be like, don't you guys think so? The latest manga chapters are awesome, right? And, you know, maybe you guys can let me know down below in the comments. Maybe you won't. You never know. We'll check. I guess I'll have to go see. But, yeah, he would basically pop out of the screen and break the fourth wall. So he would be like, okay, well, whatever. Let's go back to reading. As he would finish off the chapter and be like, that was awesome. This is when Deadpool would basically go online, as he would look up an anime convention and just be like, all right, is there anywhere that I can go to basically maybe go see some more My Hero Academia fans? This is when Deadpool would find a YouTube video by the title of What If Deku Was Deadpool? And he would be like, yo, that kind of looks sick. As, you know, he would watch it and he'd be like, that's awesome. As he would just be thinking, but that's not what happened. It'd be something more like this. Deadpool would basically proceed to wake up in a different dimension, as this story is literally going to be told from the perspective of Deadpool himself, or, you know, my perspective technically. But yeah, you guys know the vibe. And you guys might be wondering, how did he, like, what? Like, how did he get to the My Hero Academia world? Well, that's where Doctor Strange comes out. Let's just say, convoluted stuff. Deadpool asks Doctor Strange, hey, any way you can put me in the My Hero Academia world? Maybe keep my powers? Doctor Strange just looks at him. He's like, sure. And Deadpool literally proceeds to get teleported right into Deku's body. Now, this is called What If Deku Was Deadpool, but it's more like What If Deadpool Was an MHA, in the sense that we're going to be having all the same characters of MHA, but Deku is quite literally going to have Deadpool's personality and all of his knowledge from the My Hero Academia story. So we would basically just start off the story with Deku waking up when he's 12 years old. Now, Deku would open his eyes as he would look around and just be like, ugh. He would see his surroundings and environment as he would just be like, no way. He would begin to look around as he would just be like, no way. You know, he would start freaking out, just like, I did it. I'm in the My Hero Academia world. He'd go outside as he would see Inko in the kitchen making some food, and he'd be like, I've always wanted to try her cooking. He'd go up to her and be like, hey, so what you whipping up? As Inko would look at Deadpool or just Deku, and she would be like, oh, hey, Zuko. I should say, just, you know, an omelet. As Deadpool would say, oh, that's awesome. Well, whip it up right now and just throw it on a plate. I'll eat it on my way to school. Or no, on my way to my next job. As Inko would look at him and be like, what next job, Izuku? As Deku, or no, yeah, Deku or Deadpool would hear that and be like, Izuku? He would basically proceed to look around as he would look at his hands and be like, no way. This is when he would look at himself in the mirror and be like, I'm Deku. He'd be like, I can't wait to try out One for All. As he would proceed to go outside and be like, all right, so what was it again? What was it again? Oh yeah, clench your butt cheeks and from the bottom of your heart yell, smash! You know, he would do that and he would just literally be sitting there looking like an idiot. So people would be walking by in the crosswalks, they would just look at him and be like, that's that quirkless kid. They'd be like, don't look at him. As Deku would look over there and just be like, you know, he would wave at them and walk back inside, just looking defeated, just wondering why he doesn't have the quirk. But he would notice Deku looks a lot younger than what he reads in the anime. As he would be like, oh no. You know, he'd just be realizing that he's Deku before he got One for All. As he would just say, alright, so I'm guessing I probably have to have everything happen the same up until that point. And he would just basically walk inside the house. He would eat his omelet and get dropped off to school by Inko. He would basically just decide that, well, if he's going to be in this world, he's going to change the story. By starting to make Deku someone who's likable. He would walk inside of the classroom as he would see the outfit that he's wearing and just be like, oh nah. He would basically proceed to take off the little black jacket and just have a white shirt under, as he would walk in with a little bit of a tank top with like a weak frail body frame, and we would basically just have him sit in the back of the classroom, put his feet up on the desk and just kind of chill there. As Bakugo would walk into the classroom, see Deku laying there just like, what's going on? As Deku would look at Bakugo and be like, Bakugo, my man! As you know, Bakugo would look towards Deku and just be like, what? As Deku would go up to him and be like, you know, you did a lot of stuff to me while we were growing up. And I think it's time that I get you back for all that stuff. As Bakugo would look at Deku and just scoff as he's like, whatever, nerd. Get out of my way before I have to put you in your place. As we would then basically just have Deku holding his shoulders, he would just look at him and say, things are not going to stay the same. He would basically break the fourth wall as he would say, are they, guys? As I want you guys to answer that question. Do you guys think that the story is going to remain just as it does in canon? Or do you think that I'm about to speed run this what if and it's going to be like 10 minutes long? No, I'm totally kidding. I'm not going to speed run it. But, you know, seriously though, it is going to be a pretty dope story. That being said, we would basically then have Deku proceed to look at Bakugo as he would wail on him, punch him right in the nose, and Bakugo would basically jump back as he's like, you know, a little bit of blood came out. He would basically wipe it off as he's like, you know, looks like he finally dropped the pair. As, you know, by that he means his balls. Deku would look at him as he'd say, talking about my balls? As, you know, Bakugo would look at Deku and just be like, ah! He would throw an explosion which would cause Deku to basically get flung right at the wall. As Deku would get right back up, acting as if nothing happened, regeneration, and then rush at Bakugo. But Bakugo would just continue wailing on Deku as he just keeps getting up, regenerating and regenerating and regenerating. Until Bakugo would finally get tired, and Deku would have tried to use those Deadpool moves, like jumping up in the air and using his blades, but he would then realize he doesn't have them on him. Not only that, but Deku's body can't keep up with what Deadpool wants to do. So he would just be like, as he would pretty much have to keep getting beat up over and over and over. And by the time the Bakugo continues throwing explosions, Deku would just sit there with his hands in his face, just like, oh my god, thinking to himself that he needs to make this body stronger. So he would basically have 2 years, 2 entire years to change Deku's life and make him way stronger, fit enough to at least do some of the baseline Deadpool moves. So for the following next 2 years, he would do the same training that he did in the military, pretty much teaching himself and Deku's body how to do all these moves. Do it as easy as it is to breathe air, you know, like second nature. As Deku would do just that, you know what I mean? He would begin to train every single day. And by Deku, I mean Deadpool / Deku, by the way. As you know, he would continue training every single day. Deku would just be doing push-ups, sit-ups, and practicing throwing high kicks, low kicks, how to throw punches. Deadpool knows how to do just that, but he's so thrown off by this kid's weak, frail body. So he would begin to hit the gym, taking that good creatine, taking a pre-workout, and basically snorting it in the parking lot, just going... As he would go back inside and be like, whoa, yeah! You know, he starts working out in there, and Deku's just going insane. Like, the man is getting built. And after 2 years, Deku finally has a semi-buff, like, frame. So he's now 14 years old, and he's now around, like, the same body type level as Bakugo is. You know, 2 years, I think 2 years is a pretty good time to get, you know, toned and, you know, pretty decent physique. As he's still, like, skinny, but he's still not half as buff as the real Deadpool is. That's going to take him until he's, like, 18 to get there. So, yeah, At this point, we would basically have had Deku grow a little bit. As it now, he would be a confident 5'11" in terms of his height. And that's actually pretty tall in terms of the My Hero Academia world, I believe. Because I'm not sure how tall Ida is, but I think he's like 6 foot or maybe 5'11". I'm not too sure. But yeah, you know, Ida's not short. So Deku's going to be like the second shortest, if not the tallest person in the class. And so after that, we would basically just have Deku talk about him getting home. He would walk inside of his house as, you know, 2 years later, he would get home from the gym. He'd just be thinking, it's so crazy. Right, guys? He would look towards you guys and be like, it's amazing. I mean, I went from taking this little weak guy to making him strong and making him even popular. Now he finally has a fashion sense, courtesy of yours truly, of course. As he would look towards the screen and be like, hit that like button, guys. Hit that like button, guys. Do it, do it, do it. Or else Xehther will never pose again. As you know, at this point, we would basically just have him look at you guys and be like, all right, hit that like button, guys. Just do it. As we would then basically have him hear Izuku from the kitchen as Deku would rush in and be like, food? She'd be like, yep. As he would chow in and Inko would be like, you know, ever since a while ago, you started acting different. Is something wrong with you? As he would say, so you finally noticed it after 2 years? As Inko would say, I mean, I didn't want to say anything. I thought you were like changing in order to be cooler or something like that. And Deku would look at her as he would take off his jacket because he's always wearing hoodies, and he would quite literally flex his arms as Inko would look at that and be like, you've been working out? Deku would say, yep. As it's at this point that Inko would be like, wow, Izuku, good job. You know, Deku would feel pretty proud of himself. And it's at this point that Inko would basically just tell Izuku that she's going off to bed now. As Deku would kind of just be sitting there, and Deku would pretty much just go outside as he would train for the nighttime. Now, when it comes down to Deku's drip, he likes to wear a whole lot of red. AKA, he wears a red hoodie, some black jeans, and some black Air Forces. Because why not? Now, actually, he's not a menace. I mean, is he? He wears black and white Air Forces. You know, he rarely wears the black ones. Only when he's feeling extra dangerous, you know what I mean? Extra menacing. Extra submissive and breedable, of course. And we would then basically just have him waking up a couple of days later. And by days, I mean like literally 2 days. As he would be in the back of the class just sleeping. The teacher would walk inside as it's at this point that Deadpool would kind of be getting bored of this weak, like just normal life. Like Deadpool always did want to live a semi-normal life, but it's getting really boring at this point. And this is when Deku would realize what day it is. As the teacher walks inside and goes, alright guys, I know you all want to become heroes. You know, throws the papers in the air. Everybody gets happy. He tells them all about the career aptitude test and then goes, psych, I lied. And then just tells them that he knows they all want to become heroes. He would then proceed to hype Bakugo up, and Bakugo would just be like, don't compare me to these busted D-listers, you know, doing all that stuff. And Deku would kind of just be sitting there just wondering, whatever. I'll just let him think whatever he wants. As, you know, Bakugo's over there feeling himself, just thinking that he's all this and all that, and Deku's just kind of chilling. You know what I mean? After this, we would basically have the teacher look at Deku as he would say, Izuku, you want to go to UA as well? As Bakugo would look towards Deku's... Oh, sorry about that. I dropped something. As Bakugo would look towards Deku's direction and just kind of grin a little bit as he would say, that loser wants to get into UA. There's no way. As Deku would just kind of stand up and be like, oh yeah? You want to find out? As Bakugo would just smirk and say, let's go again, Izuku. I'm ready whenever. As, you know, Deku would just be like, doesn't it seem kind of pathetic that a little quirkless kid is able to beat you? As Bakugo would say, he would say, you're not quirkless, Deku. You heal so fast. You have to have some sort of regeneration quirk. As Deku would look at him and just laugh. As he would poke out he'd like stretch out his eye and stick out his nose. He'd be like, ugh! And Bakugo would just be like, you Deku. As you know, the class would end and Bakugo would look at Deku at the end of it, turn away from him and walk off. As Deku just sits there looking at Bakugo like, yeah, that's right, walk away. Walk away, buddy. There's not a thing you can do to me. And, you know, he's kind of right. As it's at this point that we would basically just have Deku pretty much going home. Now, he would take the same path, take just as long, pretend that he got bullied by Bakugo, and by the time that he gets there, he pretty much lets the sludge villain catch him. The sludge villain would say, I didn't know he was in town. Now give me your body. As he would lunge at Deku, and Deku would freak out, you know, start acting weak. The sludge villain would look at Deku, as you know, it would overlap him, and he would then hear those words, Texas Smash! You know, of course, we would hear All Might coming in. Deku would look towards All Might's direction as he would say, All Might! As you know, we would basically just have him have that same fanboy reaction, just being like, I love you, All Might! You know, All Might would jump off and Deku would grab onto his leg as he's like, wait, I didn't think this through. He would look down at the ground and be like, I'm terrified of heights. As All Might would basically just be trying to push Deku off. Deku's grip would tighten as All Might would quite literally land on the building and de-transform from his buff state. Deku would look towards All Might as he would say, You're not All Might. As, you know, he would just basically pretend that he doesn't know. All Might would explain, and Deku would just be like, oh, so I can't be a hero without a quirk? And All Might would then basically be like, no, you can't. Deku would then walk over towards the area where Bakugo stuff was going to happen. And, you know, he would see Bakugo struggling. He would proceed to look over there as he would rush in there, throw his backpack, completely miss the eye, mind you, and the sludge villain would hit Deku into a wall, which would cause Deku to pretty much hit it and ricochet off of it. After this, Deku would like literally weakly get back up as he falls onto the ground, just faking the injury, and All Might would rush in there just being like, this boy, you know what I mean? He would punch it, just being like, United States of Smash! As you know, at this point, we then basically have All Might grabbing Deku and jumping off. After this, he would look at Deku as he would say, hey kid, you have the heart of a hero. Most people would have simply let that kid die, but your body moved. You know, Deku would say, yep. So when you gonna give me one for all? As All Might would look at Deku and be like, huh? And Deku would be like, oh, I messed up, didn't I? As he would cover his mouth and All Might would just be like, how did you know about that, young man? As Deku would just say, I gotta spill the beans. He would say, I found it all online. As All Might's just like, there was records of that online? All Might would basically begin to ask him where at, as Deku would say that it was deleted a long time ago, that he found out when he was merely a kid. As All Might would just be like, huh. You know, he can't believe it because All Might's a little dumb, not gonna lie. As it's to this point that All Might would just be like, well, I was already considering doing it, so now that you know about it, might as well. As he would pluck out a piece of his hair and be like, eat this. Now, Deku would have actually been told that he needs to train, but All Might would see his body definition and tone because, you know, his shirt kind of got a little burned because it was like right there by a sludge villain. All Might would see Deku's body don't play no game. So he would give the thing to Deku as we would essentially just have Deku just smiling, just be like, yes! As he would eat the hair and be like, Texas, smash! Trying to throw blows. All Might's just like, what are you doing? And Deku's like, don't I have your power now? He would say, you gotta give it an hour to digest. Also, hold back a little bit. Your limbs might explode. As Deku would say, oh, yeah, right. As it's at this point that the 10 months of training would pretty much begin. Now, Deku during this time would ask All Might if he can have any access to weapons. All Might would look at Deku and just be like, access to weapons? What would you need that for? As Deku would explain to All Might that, you know, it'd be pretty fun to have a little bit of access to some weapons now and then, you know? Like, he has one for all, but it'd be cool if he can use some swords or guns. As All Might would think about this, just being like, you know, sure, why not? He'd basically proceed to hit up a couple of contacts, and at the beach, he would get a license for Deku to be able to train with them. As when Deku feels the pistol in his hand, he would just simply smile and think, oh, it's been so long. As he would fire them, hitting perfect bullseyes. Now, All Might would just be sitting there like, what is going on? And Deku would look at All Might as he would smirk and be like, yeah, let's go. All Might would just be like, kid, are you sure you don't have a quirk? And Deku would turn towards All Might's direction as he would say, oh, yeah, about that, I do have a quirk. All Might would look at Deku as he would say, what? And Deku would say, yeah, regeneration, super strength. As All Might would say, wait, so you already had super strength? As Deku would say, kind of a little bit of a super soldier, if I do say so. As it's at this point that All Might would just be like, okay, kid, what else are you hiding from me? Now, Deku would look at All Might as he would begin to laugh and then get serious. As out of nowhere, he would look at him and say, I'm hiding a secret. A very, very deep, deep secret. As All Might would look at him and kind of widen his eyes, Deku would then say, I'm your successor. As All Might would just be like, oh, well, you know, kind of knew that. And Deku would then just fall into an uncontrollable laughter, just be like, you really thought, you know, as internally he's just thinking, okay, good, I got to keep this facade up. As it's at this point that he would realize that in just one more month from now, he's going to be getting to meet all the little ladies from UA. Now, in Deadpool's mind, he would literally just be thinking, I'm finally going to meet these baddies. As he's like, I can't wait to see Momo in real life. As, you know, he would basically proceed to, you know, train for the next month, get a little stronger, practice bow staff, guns, you know, everything, all the martial arts styles that Deadpool knows. And we would basically just have Deku getting stronger and stronger until he finally has to go and take the entrance exam. Now, many of you guys are probably like, yo, he has to take the entrance exam? Are we about to see Deku destroying the robot just like he does in canon? Yes. Now, the only real change to the entrance exam in this part is that Deku's not really going to be talking when it comes to Ida. Ida doesn't call him out, but Ida still does get called out by Present Mic when he calls him out and is like, if this is an error by UA, then it's highly, unprofessional. After this, everybody would kind of just look at Ida as Ida gets shut down real quick, and we would then basically just have Deku sitting there, just kind of vibing as he's like, all right, so just gotta wait for this. An hour passes. He aces the test, perfect markings, because Deku studied what the test was gonna have, and Deku immediately was able to just write it all down through muscle memory. Now, after this, we would basically proceed to essentially just have Deku essentially go outside, as I really need to stop saying essentially and basically. Deku would go outside as he would proceed to look over towards a girl with brown hair. This is when he would look towards Ida's direction as he would say, all right, it's time to shine. He would walk over to Uraraka as, Ida would walk over to him and just getting ready to be like, hey, don't distract that girl. But when Ida tries that, Deku just kind of slides under his arm and goes straight over to Uraraka. To which Deku's just over there talking to her just like, hey, you nervous? Uraraka would look at Deku and she would say, yeah, a little bit. It's pretty nerve-wracking. This is going to change the course of our entire lives. As Deku just looks at Uraraka and says, don't worry, you got this. Uraraka would calm down her nerves, and we would then basically just see Deku jumping over the entire border railing thing, as immediately he would start going to town, destroying robots left and right, using a good 40% of One For All, as Deku would just go in there and start absolutely wrecking robots. A good 563 points by the first 10 minutes, and once we get to the 10-minute mark, we would hear the ground rumble, as the 0-pointer would reveal itself, and Deku would simply be smiling, thinking, I can't wait to break my arms and legs. They're gonna heal instantly. Deku would look at Uraraka as he's just waiting for, Uraraka to get trapped under the rubble. She would, and Deku would say, did somebody say they needed a hero? As he would jump up into the air and throw a punch straight at the 0-pointer using a full force 100%. Now, his arm would shatter and the bones would break as, almost instantly, everything else would go back into how it was, as Deku would proceed to basically heal up his legs as well, landing on the ground without a scuff on him. He would rush over to Uraraka because he's like, you okay? And Uraraka would say, how'd you do that? We would basically then look at Deku as he would grab her and say, hey, here, let me take you somewhere. As he would grab Uraraka, take her to Recovery Girl and basically just be like, get some rest. He'd say, maybe I can get your number? As Uraraka, just feeling kind of indebted to Deku, would give the number, to which Deku would smile and say, see you later. As Uraraka's like, wait, I didn't get to get your... As Deku just walks off, and she's like, name. After this, we would have Deku walking home as soon as he gets out of Uraraka's ear range, he would basically just yell, let's go! I'm about to knock down my first UA baddie, as we would basically just have Deadpool internally having some monologue, just being like, I can't wait, as he's just thinking about all the UA girls and how he's going to get each and every single one of them. We would then basically just have Deku going through and hanging out with Uraraka the next day, as Deku is very smooth. It is Deadpool, by the way. He would make his moves and then he would clap. He would clap, you know what I mean? He would start studying biology, math, science, English, doing all that crazy stuff with Uraraka. As they're prepping up for their final exam in a couple of months. After this, we would then basically have them all go to school for their first day. As Deku would walk in the classroom and seeing Momo, this man would melt, bro. This man would melt like putty. As we have Mineta and Kaminari over there with Mineta, not Mineta, but Momo, just kind of trying to flirt it up with her, but Momo's just ignoring them. Then we have this kid walking out of nowhere, black hair because he dyed his hair black. Or he could have dyed it blonde, actually, but I'm just going to say he dyes it black because he tried blonde, but it didn't work on this version. And so he dyes it fully black. And we basically just have a Deku. We basically would have a Deku who walks over to Momo and just kind of greets her. She's like, hey. Momo would look at him and say, oh, hello. As, Deku would start making a couple moves, just talking to Momo a little bit. As Zawa wakes up and she's like, all right, everybody meet me outside. People would start protesting, like, what about orientation? Mainly Uraraka. And Aizawa would look at Uraraka as he would say, we don't have time for that stuff. I have 3 years to mold you guys into perfect heroes, and that's not enough time. Now move it. As all of them would go to the changing room and get dressed. Deku would peep in through the hole. However, Deku would know to do one thing. Include Jiro under the list of people he wants to peep under. So when Jiro hears this, she would basically proceed to continue getting dressed, just being happy at the fact that, someone acknowledged her, not saying a thing, feeling as if she's getting looked at by Deku, but the whole time he ignored her because that's the one female that Deku didn't care about, and he kept looking at Momo, changing and all that stuff. And so we basically have Mineta walk over to Deku. He's like, let me see. As he would look at Jiro and be like, that tomboy. As Jiro pokes Mineta in the eye and Deku laughs as the girls realize that the boys can see in their room. The girls would freak out a little bit as Aizawa would be alerted, and Aizawa would walk inside as he's like, can't believe these kids want to be heroes and they're doing this type of stuff. After this, he would go outside as they would proceed to take their little quirk assessment tests. Now, when it comes to who got the most points and who throws the ball, it would of course be Deku, as he would charge a full 100%, full cowling, straight into his arm, causing the ball to get blown away straight into outer space. Now, Deku blowing that ball straight into space would cause Aizawa to show everybody that his score was infinity. Afterwards, everybody would freak out, just being like, infinity? How did you? People are freaking out, just wondering how Deku got such a score as high as that. As Deku's just smiling, thinking to himself that, yeah, he did just that. As everybody's just like, what? Like, you're insane. They're freaking out, just thinking that he's amazing. And Deku would then proceed to basically just be like, that's what I do. As we would basically, after that, have literally the training montage of Saitama pop up. Now, if you guys have seen One Punch Man, then you guys do know who Saitama is. But you guys remember when he went to go take the hero test and he had to do the side-to-side lunges, the 50-meter dash, the straight jump, all that crazy stuff? Deku pretty much gets scores very, very similar to that. And afterwards, we would then have Deku walk over to Momo, as Uraraka would be standing over there just watching Deku, as Deku would look at Uraraka and see like a sad face appear in her, as Deku would walk right back over to her and just be like, what do you want to do today? Uraraka would turn away. She's like, as Deku looks at Uraraka and he's just like, come on, until Uraraka finally gives in and Deku would say, come on, I'll take you out to eat. After this, Uraraka would smile as Deku would look at her and he would look towards Momo's direction as he would just do the signal for call me. Like he'd be like, call me. As Momo would basically just be sitting there like, huh, what? As it's at this point that Deku would end up hanging out with Uraraka. Now, after school, we would basically have Deku going up to Nezu's office. As, after hanging out with, no, not after school this day, but the next day after school, he would go into Principal Nezu's office, as he would end up telling Nezu that there's going to be an attack on the day of the USJ. Now, Nezu hearing this would immediately be like, what are you talking about? As Deku's like, there's somebody by the name of Shigaraki Tomura. I think we should take him down. He's part of the League of Villains working with a guy called All For One. Nezu hearing this would immediately call All Might, as All Might's just like, how did you know this? Now, Deku would basically just end up looking at All Might as he's like, look, I gotta come clean about something. I didn't wash your clothes the other day. That was someone else. I paid someone else to do it. All Might would look at Deku as he's like, what? What are you talking about, bro? Like, as Deku would look at All Might and be like, you don't understand? As he would just be like, all right, check me out. He'd look at All Might as he would just be like, all right, so if night is day and day is night, and so, I was chilling at my room at 3:30 at night in the morning when all of a sudden I got cold, so I put on my sweater. But then I got hot, so I put on another sweater. And I looked at All Might, and All Might just looked at you, and you looked at All Might, cause like he's blue, and if you're blue, you can't like be red. You know what I'm saying? And so Deku would look at All Might as he's just basically like, so like you can't really die in the living room, cause you're technically not dead, cause you're in the living room. You know what I mean? And so All Might would just be sitting there with the weirdest, most confused look. And Deku would be like, I'm just pulling your leg, man. As he would go up to All Might and be like, I got an anonymous tip. As he would basically just be like, yeah, I have no idea who did it. As he would make a fake message and send it to himself, he'd be like, I was just told. I'm guessing it was one of the villains themselves. As we would then basically have Nezu being like, okay, so clearly we have a spy within us. And he would realize that the only person who can be a spy would have to be a teacher, because of the fact that none of the students are actually aware of what it is that they're going to be doing about the USJ. And so that same day, Deku would just be like, yeah, so watch out about that stuff, as it's early in the day, it's like lunchtime. After this, Deku would end up going to class as All Might would bust in, just being like, I am here, just telling everybody that he's walking like a normal person, you know what I mean? And we would then basically proceed to have All Might just go through telling them all that, you know, they're going to be having this event, so and so is going to happen, and they would all be getting really hype about this. You know, they're all excited, thinking that they get the chance to use their quirks, you know what I mean? That is pretty exciting, as all of them would just be pretty happy at the fact that, you know, they all get to show off a little bit, and so all of them would get assigned into teams. Now, when it comes to Deku's costume, he would be wearing the iconic Deadpool outfit. And in case any of you guys are wondering whether it's going to be green color, no, it's going to be red, okay? But one thing that changes is that Deku's actually going to have a little bit of a cape on the back of the Deadpool costume. And when it comes to like one of his weapons, he literally has a little toy bunny that shoots something out of itself. It's like a little plush toy that has a gun inside of it, and that's what Deku's going to be using. Now, when it comes down to his arsenal, Deku is quite literally going to be having this infinity pouch that was created by Mei Hatsume that pretty much allows Deku to essentially take any weapon that he has and store it inside of there and take it out whenever he wants. Similar to Deadpool's ability to whip out weapons out of nowhere. And so we would then basically just have Deku walking over to Uraraka as they got assigned on one team, and it would be Bakugo and Ida. Now, Bakugo, being the person he is, would say, "Stay out of my way, Four Eyes." As he would look towards Ida, Ida would be like, "How dare you?" You know what I mean? And Bakugo would go rushing in, trying to find Deku like an absolute madman, just going, "Deku!" just screaming. As Deku's just sitting there just thinking like, when will this kid ever learn? As at this point, Deku has whooped Bakugo a good 100 times, if not more. And Bakugo's ego still manages to be intact for no reason at all. And so we would then basically just have Deku waiting for this blow to come in. Now, Bakugo would start off with a giant right hook, as Deku would grab a stun gun, take it out of his pocket. As he would aim it at Bakugo's forehead, shooting it, Bakugo would get electrocuted and fall down to the ground as he would start basically like shaking. This is when Deku would look at Bakugo and just be like, "Yeah, you got what you deserve, pal." As he would quite literally wrap him up with a little weak tape, and Bakugo would just be laying there with a gun straight taped onto his head, which just keeps shocking him until All Might decides to stop the match. After, of course, they end up winning, because they would go over to Ida's room and take the bomb immediately. Deku had no problems walking up to Ida and basically treating him like a little brother. Pretty much going up to him and just being like, "Yep, not a thing you could do about it." And after this, we would basically just have Deku go home. Now, this is when he would get to the kitchen table, as Inka would look at Deku and be like, "Hey, so, you thinking of telling them?" Deku would look at you guys as he would say, "Telling them what?" As, you know, he has a smirk on his face as he would say, "Oh, that's right, I forgot. I need to tell them about fandom." Okay. Fandom, guys, is essentially an anime merch apparel store where you guys can get to by clicking down on my description. Now, if you guys do that, there will be two links down below. One that says My Hero Academia merch and the other that says Fire Anime merch. Click on either one of them and that will take you to Fandom's page. They're an anime online store, which you guys can basically go to find some of the dopest anime apparel there. Not only that, but their stuff is affordable as well as super fire. If you guys want any of the designs shown up on screen right now, then simply go down below, browse your favorite color. Let's say you don't like any of the colors that I presented up on screen, you can switch the color, you can adjust the sizes. They have everything ranging from extra small to extra large. And honestly, Fandom is just a really dope company because all their stuff is extremely affordable, way more than most of the stuff that you guys are going to be finding in IRL stores, because of the fact that most of the time they always have this 50% sale going on. However, it is going to be ending in a couple of days, so yeah, it's going to be going away pretty soon. So if I was you guys, I would definitely recommend going to check out Fandom and, you know, maybe seeing if there's anything that you guys want. With that being said though, guys, if you guys do check anything out from their store, definitely make sure to use code Xehther for an extra 5% off any order that you guys get. And with that being said, let's get right back into the what if. So the next day would arrive, and it's at this point that Deku would kind of just be thinking to himself, what happens after the USJ stuff happens? He's just kind of thinking to himself, kind of tapping his desk, just like, what happens, just wondering what it is that happens afterwards. But he's like, whatever happens. As he basically just ends up going back to school the very next day, where Aizawa is just sitting there telling them, you know, do normal stuff. And for the next week, they would pretty much just be having boring remedial acts. As by the time that the USJ attack stuff happens, the heroes are ready. Every single one of the heroes would have showed up along with the students, and as soon as they all arrive, all the pro heroes would basically be waiting to ambush the villains outside. Now, Deku would pretty much say that all the villains are in there, so they shouldn't show up quite yet. They should kind of surprise attack the villains. And so, that's pretty much what would happen. We would basically proceed to have it so that all the students would be on the bus. Deku would just be sitting there, you know, right next to all the people, as they're like, who do you guys think is the strongest in the class? You know, it's Tsuyu. And then we just have Mineta being like, oh, it's definitely Izuku. You know, he has regeneration, super strength. It's awesome. As, you know, we have the rest of the people in the class just like, yeah, Bakugo is pretty strong as well, but his temper is just so weird. And then other people are like, no way, did you see that Todoroki kid? He won in literally like way less time than he did. And, you know, everybody would kind of just be like, yo, like, we think that this guy's stronger. What about Kaminari? You know, they'd all just be thinking to themselves that, you know, everybody in the class is definitely very capable. You know, they all have some pretty powerful quirks. And so all of them would pretty much just kind of agree with each other that, you know, they're all great in their own rights. And so we would essentially just have each and every single one of them kind of acknowledging each other. After this, everybody would pretty much get off of the bus, to which they would walk inside of the USJ, where the Hero 13 would be waiting inside for them. All Might would be right next to Deku, as Deku would have made it a point for All Might to be there this day. And All Might didn't actually end up doing any previous hero work, meaning that he has all of his energy and everybody's kind of just ready for this battle or whatever. As, you know, we would basically have Kurogiri appear out of nowhere from like a minute center point, as he would just warp in there like with the warp gate ability that he has. As, you know, as you know, he pretty much just says, sorry to invite ourselves, heroes, as a bunch of portals proceed to essentially open elsewhere, and, you know, a bunch of people would just begin to pretty much teleport into the USJ. This is when all of the heroes would be like, oh my god, and Deku would just be like, we would be so scared, as Kurogiri would just basically be looking at Deku expressionless, because, you know, he doesn't have a face, if we didn't have heroes, as he would click a button and the door would explode, revealing all the heroes standing there ready to mess up all these villains, as Kurogiri doesn't even get the chance to like pretty much warp gate anybody away. As we would have Snipe literally shoot at Kurogiri's like homing area. His, you know, he has a quirk that pretty much just lets him home onto his targets, like a homing bullet quirk. And he would do that, as it would home straight into Kurogiri's metal part, shooting him a bunch of times. Kurogiri would drop down to the ground, as Bakugo would say, hell yeah. He would rush at Kurogiri, holding him down, as Todoroki would say, let's go. And everybody that's capable of fighting would rush down in there. Deku, using 50% of One For All, would blitz down there as he just starts destroying villains left and right. And all the heroes are just massacring everybody. Deku would then look at Shigaraki and be like, I need to take you out. As he would rush at Shigaraki before anybody can like blink, for the Nomu can react and cut Shigaraki's head clean off. As he's like, I did it! Whoa! You know, he's freaking out in the middle. And then we just have All Might, who just looks at Deku and is like, yo, you just like, you just killed a guy. Deku would sit there and be like, yeah, like the main villain, you know, like he's the guy that's going to cause all the problems. And he would then cover his mouth and say, like, oh crap. This is when All Might would look at Deku and be like, how do you, as he's just confused, like all the time, Deku just seems to know what's about to happen. As All Might would ask Deku if he has some sort of future sight quirk. And Deku would say, yeah, it came with One For All. As All Might, he's like, oh, well, you know, I guess that kind of makes sense. And, you know, they would chalk it up to that. This is when Deku would end up being like, all right, so now how do I use those extra quirks? As for the time being, Deku would basically continue just kind of trying to help out with the rest of the villains. And afterwards, everybody would be like, all right, so Kid killed somebody. We got to hide the body. They would do just that. And everybody would kind of just be told not to say anything about it. So Deku kind of got away scot-free. And so we would then have like a little bit of a 1 week of school, seeing as they didn't even have to shut down UA because they knew what was happening. And they captured every villain except for one of them who died, Shigaraki, cough cough. And we have to give him a little bit of a tribute moment. So excuse me as I do this real quick. Rest in peace! You know, Shigaraki, that man, he's on a t-shirt now. All For One is salty because he just lost his successor. And yeah, now we're going to pretty much have a little bit of a time skip to the day of the USJ. During this time, Deku ended up getting closer and closer to Momo, until eventually Momo basically let in and she ended up agreeing to going out on a date with Deku. Now, as for how the date would go, after school, Momo would basically just tell Deku that, if he wants, they can just have a date and she can drive them around. As Deku's like, yeah, I mean, that sounds fine to me. Why not? They end up getting in one of Momo's limos as, Momo just pretty much, she drives them around. She's basically just having the butler just take them around places, wherever it is that they want to go. And Deku and Momo would just be having a pretty good time overall, you know what I mean? After the end of it, they would basically end up to the park, where Deku and Momo would just be messing around. Momo would create a bow staff, and Deku would take one out of his like little crazy pouch thing, as he would spin it around, and he would be like, how about I teach you a little something? Momo just says, all right. As they start fighting for a little bit with the bow staffs. Deku beats her and gets her on the ground. As Momo hits Deku, causing him to fall as well. He let himself, by the way. And Deku and Momo would both be on the ground. One thing would lead to another, and this would lead to a good little smoochy smooch scene, you know what I mean? Afterwards, Deku and Momo would basically end up being taken to Momo's residence, where she would tell the butler not to say anything, and Deku and Momo would go study some sweet math. You know what I'm saying? They're over there studying math, physics, biology. They're studying, you know what I mean? They're A caliber students. They always gotta definitely get their maths in there. Their sciences in there, their history lessons in there, all that crazy stuff. And they're pro hero 101s. And so that's pretty much what they do. That being said, though, afterwards, we would essentially... Oh, actually, before I continue the story, I do have to say one thing. If you guys hear any background noise in, like, out of nowhere, just assume that that's my family. Right now, they're outside, and they're getting ready to go bike riding, like, with my siblings and all that stuff. So, yeah, they're doing their thing. Sadly, couldn't join them. Got to be out here recording a video, grinding, you already know, on the YouTube. So, seeing as I'm not doing that, it'd mean a lot if maybe you went down there, you hit that red subscription button, and you gave your boy a follow, or no, a subscriber. Yeah, subscriber. Anyways, yeah, that being said, we would then basically have Deku going back to school, where about 1 week would pass, and all of the students who previously came to come check out Class 1A, just kind of looking around to scout out the competition, would basically end up seeing everybody, and Bakugo, being who he is, would say, out of my way, extras, as everybody would kind of just get out of the way, and some people would already have a little bit of a vendetta towards Class 1A. Now, the attack on the villains was never public, but a couple of people actually know about it, and it kind of spread around UA. Actually, no, I'm not going to say that, because if it spreads around UA, then people are going to know about it. So people were told to stay quiet, and so nobody really knows about it. So people don't really think anything about Class 1A. They're not sitting there saying that Class 1A thinks that they're better. And so we basically then end up having a thing where once they pretty much get to the UA Sports Festival, Deku is the one who ends up going up stage to pretty much give the speech. Now, once he's up there, he pretty much just is like screaming from excitement inside us. He would just be wondering what it is that he's going to say. This is where I actually have a question for you guys. Since Izukage wants to be out here stealing my taking attendance thing, I'm going to ask you guys a trivia question about My Hero Academia. First one to answer correctly is going to be getting pinned down below in the comment section. All right, get ready, get ready. All right, quick question. Who is Deku's father? All right, that's the question. Whoever gets the right answer down below, and by right answer, I mean the worst answer, like the funniest, like wrong answers only, wins. All right. I know it's a Sasha Midoriya, but that's not the point. Anyways, yeah. That being said, we would basically just have Deku going up there, giving that amazing speech, would give everybody bricked up. And if you don't know what bricked up means, you're probably too young to be on the channel. But in case you need explanation, it's when there's a lot of blood in a specific area. I need to stop playing. Okay. Deku would give the speech. Everybody loves it. And afterwards, we would essentially just have everybody going like ballistic. They're all excited, just chanting, Deku, Deku. Even the people from general studies courses are excited as well, thinking that, maybe they should give it their all. And so the race would begin. Now, Deadpool being Deadpool, he would think that he wants to use that same strategy that Deku used. So he would pretty much use one for all full cowling, 45%, as he would be using Black Whip tendrils to pretty much swing over the 0-point robots, which are basically in their way. And we would essentially just have Deku flying all the way over to where the landmine area is at. As Deku would immediately just start digging in the sand, like just digging over and over and over, getting all the landmines together. As Todoroki and Bakugo would pass him, they'd be looking behind themselves, just wondering why he's there. as Deku would pretty much just end up grabbing a snowboard from his bag, as he would just take it out and be like, woohoo! You know, he would jump out and land right on it, as he would go zooming. This man would go flying, and he would end up beating Todoroki and Bakugo. Now, Todoroki and Bakugo were just looking at Deku like, you little... As Deku's just laughing, everybody's taking pictures. Deku is having the time of his life. Deku's also thinking, what's going to happen with All For One? He kind of wants to face him himself without any of the heroes being aware of that. So Deku's kind of just, while he does a UA Sports Festival and has fun, thinking about, you know, how he's going to handle him. And trying to remember pretty much where it was that All For One's lair was. As Deku would remember the bar. As, you know, he would go online, he would begin to search where that bar would be in Japan, and Deku would end up finding it. As Deku, during the break, the little intermission that they have before the cavalry battle, would end up, of course, searching up the little bar. Which would then lead to Deku being like, wait, Eri, I haven't saved Eri. As Deku would quite literally look at the school sports festival event and all that stuff, and pretty much end up just leaving. Literally leaving UA, not even completing the UA Sports Festival, but literally leaving it, grabbing his costume from 1A, telling Nezu, I gotta go. Nezu is just like, okay, and Deku quite literally just leaves. He leaves the school, proceeds to find the Yakuza house, break in there, literally, basically be a mercenary for the first time in like forever, and quite literally save Eri in the span of like 10 seconds. He saves Eri so fast. He blitzes in there, takes out Kendo Rappa, takes out everybody, uses his blades, goes in there, starts shooting bullets all over the place, and Eri gets saved. Now when Deku gets to her, he unmasks himself and says, hey, Eri, don't worry, you're safe now. But once he gets there, Overhaul would walk in there with an angry look on his face as he would touch the ground and a bunch of spikes would shoot straight at Deku. Deku would throw Eri into the air, and by the time that she goes up and lands, Shisaki's head would slip right off of its shoulders, as it would fall down onto the ground, and Deku would catch Eri once again, as he smiles at her, telling her that that man won't ever bother her. Overhaul's body would fall to the ground, and Deku would grab Eri as he just smiles at her. Excuse me, sorry about that. That snuck up on me, but he smiles at her, and he's just like, you're gonna be having a normal life now. He would go home as he would be like, hey mom, as Inko's just in the kitchen like, what, weren't you at the sports festival? Deku would look at her as he would say, yeah, but I decided to be a hero instead. Look, we have another mouth to feed. As Inko would be like, what are you talking about? Deku would be like, look, it's our new little sister and your daughter. As Inko would be like, whoa, what do you mean daughter, little sister? What's going on? Deku would be like, mom, let's adopt her. As he would say, I saved her from this hero boss who pretty much did super secret experiments on her. Inko, after hearing that, would be like, oh my god, you poor thing. As she freaks out, she's like, you want anything to eat? And Eri's little, you know, just completely not knowing what's going on, just like, yes, please. You know, she eats and then she smiles. She smiles. Deku would look at Eri, smile, and melt as he's like, it's even cuter in person. As he would return back to the school festival where the cavalry battle would be over, and Deku would quite literally just be in the stands watching the rest of the battles play out. Now, in terms of the cavalry battle, the winner would be Todoroki. Second place, Bakugo. They ended up fighting over the million-point headband because, you know, Deku left it behind. So Bakugo, who got second place, ended up getting it. And so we basically just have Todoroki versus Bakugo as the final match of the school sports festival event, in which Bakugo actually ends up winning because Todoroki doesn't use his fire side. And yeah, that's pretty much how the sports festival gets wrapped up. Deku just stays in the stands and people wonder what happened to him. Deku just looks at them, he's like, explosive diarrhea. And he pretty much just walks off as, you know, everybody's just like, but they're like, at least he's honest. As you know, everybody's just still cheering for Deku for some reason, and it's so weird because Deku's just like, I mean, I'll take it. After the sports festival, Deku would quite literally look at Nezu as, you know, he goes into his little office and he's like, yeah, I kind of took care of this guy called Overhaul. He's a Yakuza member, performing illegal experiments on this girl. Here are some quirk-destroying bullets. As he just drops them in front of Nezu, and Nezu's just sitting there like, whoa, what is going on? Deku would jump out the window, just be like, deuces, as he leaves. And afterwards, Deku would end up meeting All Might at Dagoma Beach, as All Might would send him a message asking to meet up with him. Deku would then tell All Might that he has something up for him, a present. And All Might would just be like, what's the present, young Midoriya? Now, I forgot to mention, after that and after Deku left, he quite literally ended up searching for All for One's location, and he found it. He pinpointed it to one location, and once he did that, he ended up basically sending it in a text message form to All Might. He literally just told them, you know that little villain that you've been fighting for years, All for One? I know where he's at. All Might would be invigorated, and All Might and Deku would quite literally rush over to All for One's location. They bust down the door, and All for One uses a gigantic wind quirk to blow apart the building. All Might would blitz at All for One as he would throw a United States of Smash, and All for One would block the attack. Now, them both would basically hit fists as they would see who's gonna basically give up first. And this is when Deku would blitz on in there as he just jumps into the air, does a splits mid-air, kisses towards the camera, and then goes yeet as he cuts off All for One's arm. And then afterwards, all you hear is shee, shee. You know, you just hear that from the back. Oh my god, you just hear that from the background. And Deku then looks at All for One as he looks at Deku and he's angered, he's triggered. But there's not a thing he could do about it. And so Deku just jumps back, does a bunch of backflips as All Might has to fight an All for One with one arm. And safe to say, he annihilates him. All for One doesn't even get the chance to explain to All Might that Shigaraki was Nana Shimura's grandson. And All for One, the big and bad of the entire series, gets taken down in the span of like 12 seconds because Deku just felt like it. Now, Deku wanted to keep the story going, but did he really want to have to fight a full-powered Shigaraki? Or did he want to be lazy and continue going to fight, you know, some study sessions, you know, some books? What do you guys think Deku chose? Yeah, he probably went with the books. And that's exactly what he went with, by the way. Spoiler alert, in case any of you guys were wondering. And I'd say that's a pretty... No, actually, no. There's one more thing I got to cover. Deku definitely ended up graduating UA. And after he did that, he ended up getting with every single MI elf in his area. You know what I'm saying? Miracle, we're talking Midnight, we're talking Mount Lady. Deku did all of it. And after he finished his mission, because that was his real mission, that's the reason he went to the My Hero Academia world, he was teleported back into the Marvel world, where he closed the book and said, that's how What If Deadpool was in My Hero Academia would go. Or, more specifically, what if Deku was Deadpool? Anyways, guys, if you guys enjoyed the video, make sure you guys go down below and smash that like button. Make sure you guys hit it with your elbow, because, I don't know, I just feel like I have a weird obsession with elbows today or something. Yeah. Also, guys, make sure you guys go down below in the description and check out Dankgod, the amazing thumbnail maker for today's video. That man is an absolute legend, bro. He's the reason that I keep making all these bangers. He gives me these fire crispy thumbnails. For those of you who were wondering where the Naruto have hot, have cold thumbnail was made, it was him. That man, the Chad, the mad lad. Pretty sure he's even going to start uploading his own What If soon, so I'd go hop on that wave before anybody gets there, so you get to have your free I was sub before he even made videos ticket with yourself. But yeah, guys, with that being said, that was pretty much the end of the video. I hope you guys enjoyed What If Deku was Deadpool. If you did, hit that subscribe button, that like button, and with that being said, I love each and every single one of you guys. It has been your boy Xehther, and I am out. Peace.